So in this example, we're given a data set that's shown on the left-hand side of the screen here. We're asked to determine what is the sample statistics for the data set. So what I mean by sample statistics are what are the standard deviation and what is the mean. And then we're also asked to determine what are the interview values over which 95% of the measurements should be expected to lie. Then what is the expected range that the true mean value should lie based off of this probability, based off of this data set. So first thing we can do is calculate the mean using Excel. So the mean formula is really easy. Just take the average and then you select all the numbers. Right? Done. Alright, the next part of the formula is to estimate the standard deviation. So in this case, if you type in standard dev in Excel, it'll give you two options. It'll give you a population base and a sample base. We want the sample base because we have we're taking a sample from a larger population. Alright, so we'll use this one and then we'll calculate this and we'll go down. Alright. Alright, so now we have our mean and our standard deviation. Alright, so sample statistics are finished. The next thing it asked it for is it asks us to estimate the interval values over which 95% of the measurements should be expected to lie. So in order to do this, we need to know what the t-value is for our data set. So the t-value of our data set we can find in Excel using the t-inverse function. Right? The t-inverse function, it asks us for what is the probability. Alright, so in our case, it's the probability. This is like the outer probability. So we want to know what's the outer amount. So in that case, it's going to we don't want to put in 95. We want to put in 5%. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 0.95 from 1 to get that 5% value. And then the later thing that we're going to be interested in is we're going to have the count value, or we're going to figure out the number or degrees of freedom. So in order to do that, we can use the count function, which will count the number of cells we're interested in. I know that we know in this example we have 20 data points, but if you had more data, it's easier to use the count function, and then we need to subtract 1 from it to get our degree of freedom. Alright, if we do that, we get our t-score. Alright, and what we can do is to determine our lower bound and our upper bound. We're just going to take our mean value. We're going to subtract the product of the standard deviation and our t-score. Alright, to find the upper bound, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to take the mean value, we're going to multiply the standard deviation by our t-score and add it to our mean. Alright, so in our case now, our lower bound would be equal to around minus 0.69, and our upper bound would be around 1.35. Okay. Alright, and then the last thing it asks us to do is estimate the range of our true mean value based off of 95%. Alright, so it's going to follow a very similar thing that we did in part B. The only difference is we have to find what SX bar is. So to determine what SX bar is, we're going to take our we're going to take our value for take our value for our standard deviation that we found earlier, and we're going to divide that by the square root of the total number of data points. So we're just going to count the total number of data points in this case, which is here. Alright. Alright, and then for the last thing we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our average value that we have from earlier. Alright, we're going to subtract the SX bar, and we're going to multiply SX bar by our t-score. Alright, we do the same thing for the take the mean value. This time we're going to add the product of our t-score and SX bar to get the upper bound. Okay, so the mean value, we have a 95% confidence interval. That would be between 0.95 approximately and 1.09. Okay. So this example showed you how we can calculate mean, standard deviation using Excel, but also how we can do a little bit more things like find the t-value for a particular number of data points and probability, and determine the lower bound, upper bound of within a certain confidence interval, and determine the true mean value, the confidence interval that we can expect to find our true mean value.